This time,
This time.
we're going to do the year in review.
Training year in review, is it?
Training year in review.
Is it training year in review or just kind of Sika year in review? Let's kind of do both.
Let's do both.
So first thing I wanted to talk about was go sign up to the newsletter at seekastrength.com
Yeah.
/newsletter.
Just so you know as well,
We're writing them.
oh, we're definitely writing them. But there's different silos that you fall into. Don't be afraid to pick more than one.
I meant to say that to people actually. It's like,
Yeah, I would definitely sign up, particularly for the newsletter one. So there's like a general Sika Strength newsletter. Definitely sign up for that, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't specific to S&C for sport or weightlifting or hybrid that kind of needs to go out to everyone, and you're better off being on the newsletter one, and then you're specific. Like, you can click them all if you want, and you'll get an email every day or so.
Yeah, but like if you sign up to the weightlifting one, you know, you're going to get technical stuff about weightlifting.
Yes.
You're going to be hearing talking about personalities, and yeah, if you're not a weightlifter, it might mean nothing to you, you know. But equally, if you're a weightlifter, you don't want to hear about people balancing, running, and lifting in the same session, because
No, and I think that's where newsletters might get it wrong sometimes.
too broad.
Too broad. Well, I just from my brief interaction with some newsletters for like hunting gear and stuff, like, I've no interest in hearing people talking about like pheasant hunting.
I don't either, but you know what blew my mind was that people actually want newsletters.
Yeah,
I
I was
personally
extremely surprised.
am not a consumer of newsletters.
As neither am I.
But you lied to me, because I said to you one day, I said, have you ever even bought anything off a newsletter?
Yes.
You said no. 8 seconds later, you said, actually, no, this morning I just bought something off a newsletter.
Yeah.
So you're a fucking liar.
You're
a beep.
You know where I really consume newsletters avidly is when I know I want to buy something, but it's not like a direct need, so I'm going to wait until it's a bit cheaper.
John, I think is my problem with most newsletters.
Go on.
Is it's usually company-centric, like they're mission-centric.
Yes.
From ones I sign up to. Like I might sign up to a niche supplement. Like they'll sign me up or whatever. They keep sending me. I won't even want to sign up to newsletter. I'll say, no, I don't want
Not
first.
banned, of course.
Oh, it's only banned. So they'll sign up to it, and they'll just talk about the mission they have and stuff. And look, maybe it works for them. I'm sure they know what they're doing at their own companies. But like when you sign up to a weightlifting newsletter from Sika Strength, like you're going to want technical analysis, opinion pieces. Like there's one going out for the new Carlos Dennis Slavshnov
Yes.
in Kazakhstan. Like you want us actually writing them.
You want phonetic pronunciation of his name.
Not generic newsletters.
No.
So every time I see a headline, I'm just like, I don't want to read that. Like, whereas if you were saying, let's say if you pick that generic supplement, right? You know, whatever it is, or trying one of those stem cell supplements that Alex was on about, right? If you were saying how, I don't know, stem cells help regenerate tendons, or tendons interact with stem cells. Don't just give me why your stuff is the best. Maybe that works, but what I would want to read is the latest research, new research on stem cells.
Yeah.
Give me stem cell adjacent stuff. Give me your product adjacent. Give me something.
Give me some athletes who are using it.
I don't want to be marketed like that unless you've earned a bit of that, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you give me that whole newsletter and at the bottom you're like, let's say I'm making this up now completely. The stem cell regenerates collagen in fast twitch fibers or something, or some part of it, right?
Jesus.
And they're like, we can prove that ours does that. Feel free to buy it here.
Perfect.
Then I'm all right. But
Perfect.
But don't send me this like generic. It'd be like talking about why Sika Strength likes strength training. But maybe that's actually even not a good example.
No, I think it would be like squat programming and then only talking about the RTA being the only squat program you could run.
Well, you know, that's true though. Like you could run the RTA 2.0.
We're 4 minutes in now. We haven't even begun the video again. This is a massive issue. Garf,
it's not
in
an
January
issue.
of last year,
They clearly like watching this.
So let's take it back to January 24.
I listened to the shit talks back.
You have just squatted 300 kilos.
I like listening to the shit talks back.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But that we're not making a shit talk video.
Right. Yeah, it is a shit talk.
It's
a year in review shit talk.
But we've spoken about newsletters for the last 5 minutes.
As part of this shit talk.
The lack of structure is okay.
I feel like you just don't listen.
It's January 24.
It's January 25, but okay.
Let's take you back now.
Right.
January 24.
3, 2, 1.
As we're doing a year in review, we'll go in sequence
Right.
starting oldest, going to newest?
Yeah.
Or do you want to step it back and go December, November, October, September?
Well, I suppose for me, this whole year, 2024, was a fun year, I suppose.
Oh.
Most of it was fun.
Yeah.
So obviously,
Till you broke your foot.
till I broke my foot.
Yeah.
2023, very hectic, very aggressive year towards one particular goal. Training really hard for that. That was the 300 kilo squat. I don't even think we did a 2023 year in review, but that was obviously a big year. And this past year was just about finding myself there, you know, just about seeing
That's lovely.
what did I want to do. So obviously I'd had a bit of, not turmoil, but I'd made a very distinct decision at the start of 2023 where I was like, oh, look, I'm currently not weightlifting. I'd give myself about 6 months after the birth of my son to see what was going on. I was just doing mostly jiu-jitsu, and it had been a bit hectic kind of in the year before he was born even. I was kind of doing blocks of training, and then I'd do mostly jiu-jitsu, and it wasn't that I was in any kind of emotional anguish, but the desire for full snatch and clean and jerk all the time clearly wasn't there at that point for most of the last few years. And, you know, the start of 2023, I was in a position where I just needed to make a decision what I was going to do. We had planned to go to Japan.
Yeah.
So then I was like, look, I don't want to not weightlift. I knew that was very clear, but I was like, I'm not weightlifting right now.
Yes.
I'd made a decision. I actually made a video, if anyone remembers it, literally 2 years ago. And I decided to do squats, cleans and behind the neck jerks.
Mm-hmm.
All of those went really well. You know, I got back to 170 clean after like 6 weeks, 7 weeks or something.
Yeah.
Jerking like 170, no problem. But I was also dealing with elbow issues, which were made much worse by both lots of back squatting, lots of jiu-jitsu, lots of jerks and cleans. I picked the worst lifts I could have, all of which made my elbows much more inflamed, to the point where if there was a 60 kilo teenager on side control, pushing him off would have been not even impossible. I just couldn't even.
Yeah.
There was like no power. I couldn't even do a pull-up. Remember when I couldn't do pull-ups? It was just, I was in a position where there was just like this arm had nothing. It was just immediately like any flexion at the elbow was like gone. So 2023 switched to squatting, obviously. So once I hit 23 was done, I wanted a bit of whimsy, you know. Coming in 2024, I just wanted to do a bit of sprinting.
Yes.
I wanted to see what would happen with weightlifting.
Okay.
I knew I wasn't done. I knew that for sure.
Yeah.
But I knew like...
You just sent the text and you're like, do you want to get a coffee? Let's see where this goes.
Said, like when I'd squatted 290 and everyone was always like, when are you going for 300? And I was like, when I'm ready. It was 6 years later.
Shut up.
Shut the fuck up. But I knew it would come back, and I knew there was no pressure. I didn't feel like I have to go for it. And I was like, the right opportunity will present itself to go for 300. It did. It presented itself. So for the year of 2024, I just didn't really... The idea of just weightlifting still wasn't there for snatch and clean and jerking. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing a lot of sprinting. A lot of people saw those videos. Wanted to cut a lot of body weight, probably about 7 or 8 kilos, get closer to 100 kilos again. And I really like the idea of sprinting. I really like the idea of just kind of general athletic training again. Still doing lots of jiu-jitsu, of course, fresh off the blue belt, the new freshy blue belt. The jiu-jitsu didn't come with the new blue belt for some reason. I didn't. The upgraded jiu-jitsu just didn't arrive.
Didn't, yeah.
I'm still waiting on it, but I think it will show up.
I think you get them in the post.
I haven't. It must got delayed.
Yeah.
Must be Romanian post or something.
Suddenly you just arrive training and there's just wrist locks waiting there.
Well, the very first session, coach wrist locked me 7 times. But so around that time, I'd done like 4 or 5 sessions of snatching in all of 2023. Like literally 4 or 5. I did it like a few weeks before, 2 sessions before we went to Japan.
Yeah.
Like 1 in London and then like 1 or 2 in Japan.
Yeah.
And then did nothing again. So that was nearly 18 months without any kind of snatching. And then
brief dalliance.
Something just happened in like February or March. I was like, let me see what this snatching thing's about. You know, what's going on over here?
Yeah.
Obviously, lower body was super mobile from squatting and jiu-jitsu, you know.
Yeah.
Upper body, aggressively rehabbing elbows, getting physical therapy every week. And I was like, but a snatching wouldn't be... One of the main catalysts that kind of pushed me over the edge was I'm doing a lot of consulting for a shoe company who still want to remain anonymous, who are trying to make a weightlifting shoe.
Yes.
Against my better judgment. No, they're trying to make a weightlifting shoe, and been consulting with them very aggressively over the last year. Like, it's nothing to do with Sika strength, it's purely consultation basis. Yeah. It's like feedback, what do they think? They sent a pair of shoes, and I was like, fuck it, I'd better do a bit of weightlifting in the shoes.
Yeah, no, they feel class when squatting.
I was like, this weightlifting feels terrible, but I think I like it, So I couldn't do any cleans or jerks, or my elbows were slowly getting better, but cleans and jerks made them a lot worse. Like, squatting was hard enough on them as it was, so I was like, no cleans and jerks now, the elbows are fully rehabbed. But snatching was perfectly fine. And then the kind of started the catalyst for most of this year, which was pursuing the snatch, keeping the squat good, because there's still unfinished business there, The squat wasn't done, but I wanted to keep sprinting, and then I wanted to keep doing jiu-jitsu. So it kind of had these few things, and that's basically what happened all year, except from my point of view, where I broke my foot in two places. Well, I didn't break my foot, someone else broke my foot.
Yes, your foot was broken.
Yeah, so leading up to that, started with that, was it 6.23 or 6.3 40-yard dash? The absolute crocodile sprinting, as I call it. You know when crocodiles are sprinting?
Doesn't look good.
Got way better.
Way better.
4 days before I broke my foot, I hit a 5.2.
Okay.
On grass, in barefoot shoes.
Yeah.
So really good.
Yeah.
And they looked way better, and they were way faster.
It looked massively different.
Yeah. So...
It was like you hadn't ever snatched a barbell before.
Yeah.
And now you're snatching 100 kilos.
Well, it's been 12 years since I've done any kind of running or sprinting. Yeah. So, unfortunately, the track that was in a convenient place next to the office got closed down. So apparently there was some insurance claim or something. It wasn't me. But that got stopped. So I was reneged through hill sprints. And it's surprisingly hard to find somewhere just to sprint that's a reasonable distance, that's convenient.
Yeah.
Sprinting on tarmac is really, really hard.
It's not it.
It's really not it.
There's not enough traction to go fast.
Yeah.
And then there's not enough traction where you can go fast. You can't put out an oval in a tarmac car park, right?
Yeah.
And go and run your ovals there because there's not enough traction to corner on. Mm-hmm. If you 50 meters of tarmac, there's not enough traction to do really fast starts on it.
Yeah.
Because everything is damp and wet in Ireland all the time.
All the time.
You can't, there is, I would say tarmac's the worst possible.
It's, I don't even mind the traction as much as the pain, or not even the pain, it's the inflammation you can feel at the corners of your joints,
yeah.
The tip of your patella. I find just the top of my foot, not even the one I broke, little bits of there. The day after, you're like, oh, hips would be a little bit, lower back, you'd feel it. Totally normal stuff where you're like, okay, this isn't super feasible. So the sprinting was taken away from the track. So I was doing a lot of hill sprinting, and then I broke the foot. So that changed things quite drastically from my point of view. It kind of refined the goals a little bit. So at this point, I was still jiu-jitsu twice a week. This is about the middle of the year, on July-ish, I think. And still snatching, still squatting, still sprinting, and still doing jiu-jitsu and some bodybuilding work. After the foot break, I got back to squatting after 10 days. I think I was back to squatting on a barbell after 10 days. And I had 7 or 8 weeks off snatching. But the first session back, I snatched 120.
Yeah. So
things remained really well. And obviously I hit 290 there in December. So the snatching, I hit 147. So everything was fine there. Sprinting took a really long time to come back. Plyometrics work took a really long time for me to come back to get any tolerance to. I'd say I'm still at 90% now.
Yeah. The amount of neural inhibition that goes on there.
No, it's just a foot, purely... Yeah. Stuff feels good. Sprinting felt... I thought sprinting would regress to what it was at the start of the year.
Okay.
But it actually felt 80% of what I'd gotten to, which was really reassuring. And so any sprinting on tarmac was off the cards up until like probably like a few weeks ago. So my foot just couldn't handle it. The foot is really weird. So when I started 147 in London, I was like, there, I think I've actually hurt my foot again. So it'd be randomly fine, days without an issue, and then I'd step on the corner of a plate or the corner of a step. Yes. I'd be walking through grass and you just hit a random thing and you'd get like a 5 or 6 out of pain thing. But after 147, I was like, oh, this feels... I was like, I don't think I've broken it again, but I didn't think I broke it the first time, and I had broken it. So I was like, this is... I was like, I think it's okay, but it was pretty sore.
Like, there's so much gliding and movement of those metatarsals and, like, just general movement and gliding within the foot itself that I think when you get one of those injuries and there's a lot of inflammation there for a long time, even though it heals up quite quickly, the foot stiffens up a lot. Like, I think, like, you could probably do it getting manual therapy on the sole of your foot and just someone...
I do.
Yeah. Like, aggressively driving their thumb into it. Because those gliding surfaces conceivably don't have a reason to be that pliable unless you want to be sprinting or jumping or doing whatever.
The long tail of a bone break is much worse than the initial recovery time, is what I've seen. So, you know, when you get surgeries, people get knee surgeries, ACL, meniscus, you have an expected time frame, usually a longer one. You know, you enter your rehab process with this expectation of recovery. And while they're not linear, the general direction is very, very linear in terms of like your progression week for week. You know, you might regress a little bit, but things go quite well. But it's a very steady progress. You know, you're like week 1... Probably not week 1. Like week 4, you're doing your parallel wall sits after a meniscus or ACL surgery, and week 12 you can go ham on an assault bike kind of thing, and slowly getting there, whatever. But with the foot break, obviously I pushed things pretty far and pretty aggressively at the start, and my initial concern was twofold: get back driving ASAP, obviously, because that was not useful for family or business. And also, I put so much work into the squat the year before, and I was maintaining with such little effort. I was like, oh, I can't lose all this, because I was worried that I'd hit a point where I'd regress so much that when I'd start squatting again, I'd be really far back. So I was really concerned. So my biggest concern wasn't jiu-jitsu or snatching or sprinting. It was just, I knew if I could get back squatting really fast, that it would recover really quickly. The one thing was, I don't know if I had an avulsion fracture or not. It seemed likely due to the type of break I had. Thankfully, most of them healed by themselves. Not to rag anyone on here, because I know we ragged on physios and stuff last week, but the health service clerical errors, a very annoying one. So basically what happened was, the people I saw initially were great, got an x-ray done within an hour and a half of going to the unit near me, got an x-ray done, got a boot, recommendations. Then their part was done. They were great. I was supposed to have been contacted by the specialist unit, the brakes unit, for an appointment. Obviously, I didn't get contacted. My suspicions were risen when she said, look, if they don't contact you by 3 days' time, you will have to ring them. You can only ring them between this certain window, 2 and 4 on like Monday, Wednesdays, and like Fridays of a blue moon. And then contacted them. So like the first call was like, oh yeah, the person who usually does that isn't here right now. It was like 2:30. Clearly was still on a long lunch or whatever. Also, that's the person who's going to book the appointment for you. So it says on the sheet 2 and 4, 2 and 4 or whatever. This young person, young fella, was interning or something, clearly a student. He was like, oh, I don't really know what to do. That so-and-so's not back yet. You're like, we'll call you back. In my head, I was like, I'm not getting a call back. Called them again on Friday, and they were like, no one there again. And I was like, fuck them. I was like, it's getting better. I'm not wasting time. I got the x-ray. I know there's bones broken. I'll take precautions and do what's necessary to recover as fast as possible. But the initial recovery goes reasonably fast, or under the conditions I put it under, went pretty fast. But the last tail of it, the stuff where you get random pains, certain movements, took quite a while. I will say with bone breaks,
I have broken bones that still hurt me now.
Yeah, you hear that a lot.
Like if I sit a certain way, my bottom floating rib will just spasm really badly.
Yes.
Once every 6 months, maybe once a year. And that's from when I was like 15.
Like up until maybe a few weeks ago, after a bout of driving, then I'd be stuck in dorsiflexion. Like I'd be limping when I got out of the car because it'd be so kind of seized up, you know.
Yes, yeah.
So that was kind of the defining point of the year. It was before foot brake training, after foot brake. So I haven't gone back to jiu-jitsu yet. So my very stringent agreement with myself was that I couldn't go back to jiu-jitsu until my foot was fully recovered. So there was to be no grey area. So obviously being involved in sports for a long time, but also being involved in jiu-jitsu and knowing lots of people in jiu-jitsu and coaching them, you see a very clear trend of either no time for recovery or just enough time for recovery where they can get back rolling.
Yeah.
And then you end up with terrible injuries that never heal or will need surgeries or are chronically repeating. So I was very stringent with myself, given that jiu-jitsu was like a tertiary, quadri-petanquery goal of mine. You know, something I really enjoyed doing, but I didn't care to be the best at or anything. I just enjoyed doing it, and if I got better, that was a novelty enough. So I was like, the goal I set out for myself was I can't return to jiu-jitsu until the foot is 100% confident. And even now, I would say probably still be even like another 2 months before it has to be perfect for me to entertain going back, you know. As much as I miss jiu-jitsu, it is, you know, other people are impacted more than me. So if I go back and feet re-breaks are really high compared to a lot of our bones, it's very common.
Okay.
Especially in field sports, if they break their foot, it's super common for them to have a second break because they go back too early. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't think I'm in jeopardy of re-breaking it, but why take the risk?
Absolutely.
So squatting went good, snatching went good, back sprinting like once a week and back jumping. I did PB in my box jump, all-time PB in the box jump. Was it 48 inches or 52 inches? I can't remember. It was something pretty impressive, in fairness. It was pretty good.
Okay.
I'll give that.
Do you have a video of it?
Somewhere on my Instagram.
You have to cut that in.
Oh, you can cut that in.
Wait, is it an old video?
Well, it's sometime in the past year. Like,
okay,
it's up there somewhere, but it was pretty high.
Yeah.
And the vertical jumps. A lot of people like the vertical jumps.
Absolutely, yeah. I think jumps are just so visually impressive.
Yeah.
You know, there's something about like somebody being able to jump over a car. Remember when Clarence jumped on the roof of the micro we had?
Yes, I do.
Like you can see it from a mile away that's unbelievably impressive.
He hurt his foot in Korea, and when we met him in Paris, he was like, it's still kind of sore, and that's a year later. Now, he never got an x-ray, but that definitely sounds like he broke that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So having had extensive experience in broken foot, so I was like, that sounds really similar. It swelled up, you had to limp on it, really sore now. I'm like, that sounds like that might
Also, I feel like in bouldering, you're constantly jumping down off the wall.
Oh, yeah. He did a trickering or parkouring or whatever.
Yeah. But you know, like
Parkour.
the year in between there, there's probably a lot more impacts.
Yes.
You know?
So it was a good year training-wise. Sprinting goals, we're still looking for a track that's convenient to our new office. So
we actually have one really close by.
Is there?
Yeah.
Because I want to repeat that time and see where I'm at.
Yes. So
one of the other reasons actually I don't want to go back to jiu-jitsu just yet is the snatching and squatting are going really well. And in my mind, I've the next, assuming I stay alive, 50 odd years or more, probably to my 80s to armbar people, but realistically, max power outputs, probably my 30s, realistically, to get the job done for certain numbers. And
you're not going to be hitting all-time snatch PBs as a 42-year-old.
No.
But when you're coming up with your snatch PBs.
But do I even want to be doing that in my 40s? You're not going to be?
Yes.
So
you want to be smoking cigars on the beach in your 40s.
So I'm conscious that jiu-jitsu isn't going anywhere as much as I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But snatching big time weights and squatting, I'm not under pressure, but I don't want to waste any time, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. There's a few goals I need to tick off, and I'll definitely get back to clean and jerky at some point, but not until I've done my snatching and squatting stuff.
Till they're all put away in their sections. in terms of speed of the barbell.
Obviously Anton was still helping me with weightlifting.
Yeah.
Had kind of a more casual relationship with him in terms of coaching, so doing my own programming. I would get like tactical feedback once every like 6 or 7 weeks. Just send him a video and he'd give me something to work on, and I'd work on that for like 2 months or whatever.
Yes.
So the technique is obviously very good as well. So that's kind of my year in training. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
A good year of training.
Very good. Well-rounded year of training.
It'll tell a lot now this time next year when we're doing this again.
Yes.
How that kind of went, you know?
Yeah. What the longer tail of it was.
How was your year, Dara Fitz?
My year up until May was
Yes.
phenomenal.
Yeah, you were...
I'd come in with a really good prep block. I started my first proper block the last week in December, so like last year. Started working with Alex. He was doing my nutrition and stuff. So January did a jiu-jitsu competition. I think I just went into the open weight class, but I think it was around 97, 98 kilos then. So did the competition, went really well. Had been doing jiu-jitsu like twice a week, just in the mornings, maybe one evening every week. And then training properly started the kind of middle of January for me last year. Ran the squat blocks, so ran RTA 2.0, which is actually very enjoyable. I hadn't run...
You kind of ran it 3 days a week, was it? You condensed it down?
Yeah, I condensed it down.
But with a subpar max, like a very low max.
Yeah, so because I was getting back into training, and because the max input was so much lower than what my squats had been in the past, I think I started off with a max of 190, which is 40 kilos below what my squat would have been, you know.
But I think you put in like a max of 140 or 150, did you?
I
feel like
so I ran a little on-ramp phase.
Yeah.
Where I did basically the first 2 weeks twice, which worked really well. It got me exactly where I wanted to be. By the time I was getting to the 5RMs, my 5RM, I think the heaviest 5RM I did was 185. So it got me back in shape really, really quickly. Was back to 195 and 200 for a single by kind of mid-May. But running concurrently to all that, I was in a really aggressive deficit.
Probably a bit too aggressive after...
In retrospect, probably too aggressive.
Yeah.
Fueling training was working very well.
Sorry, just to clarify there, not that Alex had put you on a...
No, my goals.
He facilitates what you say.
Yeah.
Even if it's the dumbest... Well, like, if you're going to fucking off yourself, he'll tell you. But
it was half a kilo a week for 20 weeks. Like.
Yeah, like if he thinks it's stupid, he'll say... Well, not if he thinks it's stupid, but you'll tell him what it is. You'll tell him this is what your plan is. He understands that you understand a lot about training.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to tell you that that's a very aggressive cut.
Yes. And I went into it with that specific understanding because essentially what I wanted to do was
Stop eating that.
run a squat cycle and a kind of good prep block, but do all of the weight loss during the prep block and then maintain. So I got down to 96. I was like seeing the scales at 96. I went and looked at a few of the feedbacks I had with Alex at that time. 96 kilos was pretty much there all the time. So most mornings. And that would have done me pretty well. It would have done me for kind of 3 or 4 months. So during that time, very, very low calorie intake. Almost all of my major carbs and major calories, to be honest, were happening in and around the training sessions. Now, in terms of the weekly plan, it was 4 runs per week. It was 2 sessions in the gym per week and then maybe a third squat session. So I used to do those 2 in Bandon on Tuesday and Thursday mornings, and then a third squat session just at home, which worked pretty grand. But I was stacking too many sessions together, is my retrospectively looking back on it. I used to go to jiu-jitsu at...
Probably should have dropped jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Or at least half the frequency.
That was the problem, because it was those Tuesday and Thursday mornings were essentially ruining the week for me. Yeah. So I do jiu-jitsu at 8 a.m, have a coffee, go and lift weights, and then I'd run that night. So it would be 3 sessions in that day. Now, none of those sessions are massive sessions, but those Tuesdays and Thursdays were always massive Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is a big problem, you know.
But you were also doing Friday night open mat sometimes.
Friday night open mats.
Sometimes you were doing Mondays classes.
Yeah, and it's just too much. I think if you took out one of those factors, if you took out trying to run or trying to squat or trying to lose 10 kilos quickly or jiu-jitsu.
No, I actually think the magnitude of what you were trying to do was the issue. So
yes.
You could do your running and your squatting and your jiu-jitsu as long as you aren't trying to do something that 3 other people have done, 2 other people have done, 3 other people.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's the height you're trying to climb to. So the weight loss phase went great, but it was kind of murdering me. Not it was kind of murdering. It was murdering me. I had 1 week of squats left. So basically on the second run around of the squat cycle, I was going to get to the 5RM and then go back to volume again. So ran a pre-block, ran the RTA, the 2.0, then ran it up to the 5RM, which is around halfway through, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, a bit sooner, I think.
A bit sooner, maybe. So I had that coming up on the Saturday, and then I was just basically finishing the end of that block along the same week. So few bigger running sessions. I went to a track in northwest Cork somewhere. Lovely track, but it's like a 250 meter track. So few hard sessions that week, culminating with the end of the block. Then on the Sunday night, as I was beginning to start that week, some shit talk started in a group chat where I just made the statement that I'd run a half marathon for you at no training. Ran the half marathon at like midnight on the Monday night, thus kicking off a falling of dominoes that ended in me being very, very sick. So I did that, trained the Tuesday, trained the Thursday, and then on the Saturday, I would have been running in between. Then on the Saturday, I went to do the 5RM. So I did 180 for the 5. Felt grand, but had a little bit of a kind of a pain in my quad where I'd had a previous tear. Then I just put 200 kilos on the bar for no reason at all. And
off program, by the way.
Off program. Terrible recommendation. Sat down at the bottom, little bit of like that Velcro tearing in my quad at the bottom. Bailed the barbell, jumped forward. Didn't really think any more about it. Very, very tired. Feeling like shit. I think we had some relations down, but woke up the next morning having like heart palpitations. My leg had gone black. I was very, very sick and in a bad way, is the only way I can really communicate how I was feeling. The heart palpitations and chest pain stayed. Temperature like shooting up and down, like really aggressive fevers, dropping back down again. My legs swelled out to probably an extra 50% of what it was over where the tear was. Went to the doctor after I think I went to work on the Monday and I had to go home. And I was just too sick to do anything, like really, really in a bad way. Went to the doctor on the Tuesday, had rhabdo, and stayed essentially in bed for the next week, or the next few days after that Tuesday anyway. I will say rhabdo was the worst illness I've ever had, bar none.
We kind of thought you'd gotten a bacterial infection again.
Yes.
Because you'd had staph the year before, and we were both kind of like, you should definitely go to the doctor. Both of us are like, you should definitely go to the doctor.
Yes.
You should probably gone to the doctor sooner.
I think I should have gone to the hospital sooner.
You should probably have gone to the hospital like on that Saturday night.
Yes.
But you went home on the Monday, and I was like, you should see the GP, and you're like, I'm trying to get in contact with the GP.
Yes.
And then you saw the GP, and from what I remember, she was like, oh, it's kind of already on the way down. She's like, you definitely have rhabdo.
Yeah.
But it's too late to go to A&E now. You would have been dead if it was going to kill you, so you'd have been,
Yeah.
It was kind of like rest up, drink water, and just kind of wait it out.
So like the thing with rhabdo is like your piss looks like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's black. And you're drinking like maybe a litre of water an hour. You're waking up every single hour to piss.
Was drinking water basically the only recommendation you could do?
I think so.
Was there anything else you could have done?
You should have gotten an IV.
Oh, yeah.
I think an IV would have gotten you sorted pretty much faster than drinking water would have. But you're not sleeping because you're constantly waking up. When you're pissing, it's like, yeah, I can't even describe it without grossing people out. But it's not nice. Like, it's very disconcerting. You feel like you're dying.
Was that worse than red velvet cake disorder?
Way worse.
Really?
It's by far the worst.
Fuck.
The heart palpitations, the feeling of impending doom is not to be trifled with.
Jeepers.
Yes.
Did you feel that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
You feel very, very bad. I think your heart is just really struggling to pump that rotting muscle around your body, you know?
So you got the rhabdo.
So I got the rhabdo.
Obviously, the recovery time from rhabdo is
Pull the plug.
highly recommended to
Yes.
wait a while.
Yes. So I essentially just pulled the plug. I was like, if this takes a month, if this takes 2 months, I'm like, it's not even a thing of being like physically recovered. It's like, I really didn't want to train then.
Yeah, I got that from you. Yeah, you were
Like-
knocked for 6.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I was training for something I'd failed miserably twice.
Not miserable.
No, but I'd failed it.
On the cusp of.
Failed it very publicly twice.
Yeah.
And then the third time for this to happen, it leaves you with a very bitter taste in your mouth. It's not like you're going and playing. It's not like you're playing in a league all year long and you get to the final
Yes.
and nobody really remembers that final or whatever. Like, it's very, very, nobody remembers the individual games within the year. Like, you're training for one thing. This is my third time trying to do it. All the other times I've gotten injured as well. And now this time I was like, how much worse can it get? Like, I don't.
Apparently, it could have. It
Could have been worse.
It got the worst.
Yes.
It probably got as worse as it could get.
Yeah, without
Or-
dire consequences.
On par. Like, anything that would be different would be laterally worse.
Yes,
On
yeah,
the scale
yeah.
of worseness.
Yeah. So,
Unexpected. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't have Dara getting rhabdo on my bingo card for 2024.
I certainly didn't.
I didn't have Owen breaking his foot.
No.
2024,
No.
but
A year of uncertainty. I basically just didn't want to train. I was pissed off with it. Was very annoyed. Not annoyed with anything or anyone, but just existentially done with training for a while.
I even left you alone about training.
Yeah, 100%. I was like, felt like I was going to die,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to do it again. That was what I told myself back then. Then I got the keys to a house 2 months later. And so essentially since then, I've been at the house renovating a house every night until 1 or 2 a.m. There most mornings as well, which really doesn't leave time for training. Like, it really, if you want to get it done as fast as you possibly can, you can't kind of dip your toe in and slowly.
Well, if you're renting a house
Yeah.
and you start paying a mortgage, it makes sense to
You got to get it done.
get out of the.
So now I'm at the point where I have a raging speed horn for training.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Plainly because training in my mind now is like the green grass on the other side of the fence,
As opposed to doing the renovation work.
Yes. So maybe if I was into baking, I'd have a speed horn for baking. But at the moment, training is like this lovely goal that's going to be there in a week or two.
So you're going to wait till you're fully moved in and then get going slowly.
Yeah, I have a nice shed. I have 2 sheds. Hopefully at some point 3 sheds. But one of them is going to be turned into a gym. So if anybody has some rubber floor matting they'd like to be equipping a gym with, let me know. But that will be turned into a gym, and the first 2 months this year are just going to be a strength block. Slowly getting back into it. I'm going to start training a bit differently this time and basically just take off a nice big heavy squat and then maybe look at something else after that.
I'm of the view that the long runs aren't needed for this, for you.
The longer distance runs.
Yeah, I don't
Yes.
think that, if you were someone who came into this who hadn't had 16 years of rugby plays and then been active after that, if you'd just been someone who tried to do this having never done anything before, then I definitely think those long runs were needed. But I think you had that base to a degree. I think they were part of that downfall as well. I think you need...
They had a lot of fatigue.
Yeah, you had the intervals and you had the longer runs, but I don't think... Maybe for a short period of time they might be useful for like a month, but then aggressively drop them, I think.
I think one thing I'm missing is a lot of lactic work.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing a lot of like faster intervals, like much faster than race pace intervals. So like speed work, you could call it.
Mm-hmm.
It's doing a lot of longer work, but it wasn't doing a lot of work where I was in that lactic bath, where you're really burning hard. I was listening to some of that. Is it the Norwegian 4x400 stuff?
I keep saying that stuff.
It's lactic threshold training. It's the exact same as every other lactic threshold training protocol there's ever been.
That's what I keep saying. That's like ephemeris. But I'm like, am I missing something here? Because
they've essentially just named it.
yeah,
I'm
all right with that.
Yeah, and like, I think I need to spend more time in there, which is horrendous. Like that's the most disgusting of places to be spending time.
Yeah, but you're not committed to anything right now, I suppose. Is that the...
No.
You're just seeing what happens.
I'm not even at the texting asking if they want to go for a coffee point. I'm at the like creeping on Instagram stage with training blocks.
Like, it's annoying, I suppose, because you've done both of the goals individually. Do you know what your fastest ever mile would have been? Like 450, something like that?
No, it would have been lower than that. I don't know. That's the problem with playing those sports.
Yeah.
Like, I know what my fastest 5K is purely because I did a sprint triathlon and you were wearing a time, or I did the running part of that.
How fast did you
wearing
5K?
a time? It was like less than 19:10.
That's pretty good.
It was grand for a 5K after training on a Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but definitely back then I did a lot of work in that lactic area. Like, that feeling of large amounts of lactic acid building up was something I was very, very used to, which I'm not used to now. Like, I know even on the times where I've tested miles on the track or just on the road, it's that lactic is building up. All right, I don't have the threshold high enough for that. So that'll be the plan now for the next...
But no rush.
No rush.
There's no pressure.
No. You need to get into the house first.
Yeah.
And then convert one of the sheds into a gym.
Yeah.
That should be a fun little build series.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think that's kind of it, is it?
I think so.
You actually did what we were going to say.
As much as you tried not to do it.
I just want to talk about the newsletter.
Do go and sign up for that newsletter as well.
It's us writing it.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, there's no ghostwriters or copywriters.
It's not ghostwriters. It's not ChatGPT. It's not...
Despite the...
Lads, I know...
Numerous.
A few people every week email us being like, I'd love to write your newsletter.
I know, we're fucking writing it.
You write your own newsletter.
Do you know if someone was like, I'll help you with the strategy and...
I'll show you how to use the software to schedule them.
Or grammar.
Yeah.
Here's a good way of having an email series.
Yes.
Or something.
Yeah.
But don't be like, let me write your newsletter. No, that's so seedy.
Stop it.
Do you know if you were like an intern coach for us or something?
Yes.
And you were like, this is fucking Alan's newsletter.
Yeah.
It'd obviously be shit, but you'd let people know. But it just feels so seedy and people keep offering.
Yeah, no, we're not doing that. Just as well, it's just Google Sika Strength Newsletter and it pops up. There's a landing page on the website. As we said, you can select the areas you're interested in, and that's not for any massive... We're not selling your data to anyone. That's purely so you get the right newsletters.
No, we're taking your data.
We're taking that data and giving you the better newsletters that you want, purely to stop the track and field people getting emails about Carlos Nazar's snatch.
With which they might be interested.
They might be, but then they should select the weightlifting newsletter.
Yeah, I will say the newsletter is lagging compared to the others. There's been a lot of people sign up to the other ones. So,
yes.
weightlifters, go sign up to the newsletter.
Yeah.